Yeah, I look back that it wasn't my best year, but it's something to build upon. I'm not going to have any regrets in life, and I'm just going to be thankful for the process, for going through that, because that's what's going to define the content of my character. How Colby Covington responds to adversity, how he comes back from a down year. Is he going to let that define his whole life? One bad year doesn't mean it's a bad life. So this year I know I'm going to be better. I'm going to be more efficient, and I'm going to have more time, to work on my craft. Last year was about being selfless, Dennis. It was about sacrificing my time to a greater cause, to getting Donald Trump elected. That fight was bigger than any fight I could ever have in the octagon. So, my whole time last year was great. I had honestly some of the most memorable moments of my life, being able to go on the campaign trail, all these stops in all these different states around the greatest country on God's green earth, USA. So, I look back on it on a reflective year, like, there was definitely some highs, some lows, but that's life. You have highs and lows, and you just gotta stay motivated on what's next.
Who do you want next? It looks like there's a couple of fun options for you for the next big fight.
Yeah, there's a couple fun options. I don't want to make any call outs. I want the UFC and fans to decide who they want me to go next. I think there's some intriguing fights out there. I just want the biggest and best fights. Everybody knows, I'm the marquee. That fight that I showed up on 2 weeks notice, with no training camp, look at what it ends up being. Ends up being the highest gate in North American history for a fight night. So, that's what happens when Colby Covington is on the marquee and he shows up. He's the biggest star in the division. Colby Covington is the premier for the welterweight division. So I only want the premier and biggest and best fights. So whoever that is, I don't know. I'm going to let Hunter Campbell decide that. He's the face that runs the place, so he can decide who it is. We've had some chats. He wished me a Merry Christmas and said we got some big things in store for me. So we'll see. There's a couple guys out there. Paddy Pimblett's always an option. He's a big name, and he's been running his mouth about me. So I'd love to settle that. Michael Chandler is always a possibility. He's ran his mouth. Gilbert Burns. I know he's retired. Chael said he's retired, so we know he's retired. And honestly, Gilbert's the biggest fan. He's always been a fan of me. He took a picture of me at Hard Rock a couple months ago, and he's been real nice. He didn't release the picture. I know Gilbert put the picture up like in his house, and he framed it because he's such a big fan of me. He's always talking well about me, so I do appreciate Gilbert Burns for doing that for me. But why would I want to fight a fan? That would be so rude to fight a fan like Gilbert Burns. I mean, he's my biggest fan. That's disrespectful, so I don't want to fight Gilbert. I want to fight the biggest and best names the company has to offer. And, whatever the UFC and fans decide, I give the fans what they want. I don't turn down any fights, never pulled out of a fight. I show up injured, sick, whatever. Doesn't matter. I'm here to sell. I'm here to do good business with the UFC. And ultimately, it's really up to the UFC what they want.
So you and Gilbert ran into you, and you guys took a picture together. When was this, and what was said? What did he say to you?
Yeah. He's a big fan. He was walking away from like another combat sports event that was going on in Hard Rock, and he saw me sitting down. He said, "Oh, Colby, hey, what's up, brother? How you doing?" I was like, "Oh, what's up, Gilbert? How you doing?" He just started fanboying. He's like, "Bro, you've had such an amazing career." I was like, "Oh, thank you, Gilbert. You're an exciting fighter too. Like I appreciate you being my fan." And then he's like, "Hey, can I take a picture with you, Colby, with my coach? Is that okay? This is like my lifelong coach from Brazil." I'm like, "Yeah, sure, Gilbert, whatever you want. You want a picture? I'll give you a picture." I give every fan a picture. So, I gave him a picture, and, this is 6 months ago, so he didn't post it. The fact that he's kept it secret, like, is nice. I know he framed it on his wall, and he probably wants his kids and wife to see what a real champion and winner looks like. But, I appreciate him, man. I appreciate all my fans. And I would never want to fight a fan. So it would be hard to fight him. And let's be honest, just like Chael said, Gilbert's retired.
What did you think when Gilbert leaked Chael's number?
Yeah. I got a call a couple hours later, and it was like from a new number. I'm like, "Who's this number?" It's like Chael's like, "Man, this is my new number, bro." So, I mean, what I think of it, I mean, dude, that's so low, man. Like, that's just so low, dude. Like, I mean, there might be a lawsuit coming. Let's be honest. There might be a lawsuit coming, but that's just low. Like, you don't stoop to that level. Like, we're not little kids, dude. There's other ways. If you want to talk some smack, you want to get back at him, but. Dude, he said the truth, bro. Like, he's retired. Like, he's not going to fight again. But that's really low. So, I don't respect one of my fans like Gilbert doing something like that to the greatest mixed martial artist of all time, Chael Sonnen.
Miami could be a good spot for that fight. Would you be happy to do Miami? I think that's April.
No, Miami would be a dream come true, man. Like to fight in my home city, like nothing's gonna get more motivation and inspiration out of me than to fight in my backyard, to sleep in my own bed. Like I just know I'd have the perfect training camp for that. So Miami is the plan, without a doubt. If Miami is has, I don't know if it's been like confirmed that it's April. I was hearing some rumors that it was April, but I'm hoping it gets confirmed for April soon, and I'll be on a call with Hunter in the next month or so.
Let's say this Gilbert fight is the fight. How do you see yourself and Gilbert going? Like, what would your prediction for that one be?
You know, Colby Covington against Brazilians is undefeated. He doesn't lose to Brazilians. He's the king of Brazil. So, you know, Colby Covington would go out there and absolutely decimate Gilbert and send him into retirement for sure. I mean, he's already retired, but if he wants to come back and get a paycheck with the biggest welterweight star in the division, I don't blame him, man. It's going to be the biggest losing paycheck he's ever had. So I see Colby Covington absolutely decimating Gilbert Burns from pillar to post for as long as minutes until, you know, Gilbert taps out.
Let's talk about Michael Chandler. You mentioned him before. He actually spoke a little bit about you. He said, never say never when it comes to a fight with Colby. I think that's a fight that happens at some point. If Conor isn't coming back, then Paddy Pimblett is a great option. But the London card might come too soon for us. So maybe Vegas in the summertime. Maybe it's me and Colby. Why do you think Michael Chandler is sort of talking about wanting to fight you, wanting to sort of move up? Were you surprised that he's so keen on this fight?
No, because, I mean, now we've seen he just likes to get beat up. He likes to run his mouth, and there's no substance. He doesn't really back up what he says. So, of course, he wants to fight me and get a bigger paycheck. I am the premier star of the welterweight and lightweight divisions, like besides Conor, obviously, but we don't know if Conor's coming back. You know, respectfully, Conor's done everything there is to do in this sport. You know, he's the biggest star the sport's ever seen. So I just don't see a reason for Conor to need to come back. You know, his body of work is, no one's going to touch that. So I don't blame Michael for wanting the next biggest fight that he could possibly get. That's me. So, you know, he loves to get beat up. He loves to get his face smacked. And, you know, if that's the fight the UFC wants, then I love that fight. You know, I love silencing people, and especially when they start running my name through their mouth. Like, he talks all this shit in interviews, and then I see him, you know, at Mar-a-Lago. He gets invited to Mar-a-Lago maybe once a year. You know, I'm there like every weekend, you know, shout out to Donald Trump. But he gets invited for a little premiere of a documentary there, and he's fanboying over me on the red carpet. Bro, what's up, Colby? So good to see you. You look so... I'm just like, bro, how are you going to shift your energy? You want to talk shit online. You want to talk like it's personal, and then I see you, and you're like fanboying over me. It's just, all these guys are full of shit, Dennis. You can't really believe anything they say. So I would love that fight. I hope it comes to fruition, but I don't know. I think he's all talk. I don't think he's any walk. Yeah, I see myself overpowering him. You know, he's definitely done some steroids to bulk up. So 70 looks like a weight class he could fit into. You know, he's a bigger guy. He weighs like probably 190. He probably weighs more than me. He's just, you know, he's like a Makhachev, where these guys are weight bullies, and they just love. They're so good at cutting weight. So some of these guys, Dennis, have perfected cutting weight. I mean, look at a guy like Alex Pereira. The guy was cutting what, 55 pounds. I mean, some of these guys are so good at cutting weight, and by the time it's fight night, they get 36 hours to rehydrate. So, you know, like they just blow up and balloon up. So, you know, there's no reason he shouldn't come up to 170. He keeps, you know, faking out like he's going to do it. So how I see the fight going, it's a very easy fight. I see me breaking his will. He's not going to be able to hang in there for five. If it's 5 rounds, for sure he's not hanging out. If it's 3 rounds, he's not hanging in 3 rounds. I'll put a different pace on him. So I just see him quitting, him breaking, you know, like in the Dustin fight, you know, and look what happened with Dustin, and Dustin's scared to fight me. So we know what would happen. It would be really bad. You know, it'd be a catastrophe for him.
So Dustin's not the guy. Dustin won't be the next opponent. I know he's trying to lock in this fight. You haven't heard anything from the UFC about you versus Dustin. I know that's the fight that people want to see, you versus Dustin. Nothing.
Yeah, nothing. You know, the UFC offered it. They were even willing to double his paycheck. You know, they want to settle this beef. You know, this beef was supposed to be settled, man. He's the one that had so many things to say. Oh, it's on site, Colby. Oh, you went after my family, blah, blah, blah. But then when it was time, when the UFC started offering the fight, then it was, oh, no, I don't want Colby to make finances after me. Finance? What do you mean, bro? I already make big finances regardless if I fight you. I want to fucking settle this personal beef. This ain't even about finances. This is about settling something that goes back a decade plus. Like me being your training partner, being, you know, respectful to you for so long. Then you start trashing me, throwing you on the bus because you're mad about how I'm promoting myself in the UFC. Like, What the fuck? How childish is that? I used to give Dustin tips on like negotiations with like the UFC and like to turn his back like that and start talking shit and saying, "Oh, I'll kick this guy out of the gym. He's a mean guy. He says some mean fucking words." Like he's a pussy, dude. He's Louisiana swamp trash, and it's pretty sad that he doesn't want to defend his family's honor. But you know what? He can go into retirement knowing that he's my little bitch. And every time we trained together, I knew I fucking beat his ass. So it is what it is. It's almost more rewarding for a guy to duck me and go into retirement without fighting me. That's worse than an L to me, in my opinion, because that was like you didn't even try. Like these guys that come out here like George, Tyrone Woodley, Robbie Lawler, Rafael dos Anjos, all these big names I've beaten. At least they tried. At least they tried. But Dustin doesn't even want to try. He's a scared little Louisiana bitch.
So you used to help him with some of the behind the scenes stuff that people don't realize.
Oh yeah, people don't realize like when I got the interim title in 2019, I was giving him inside scoops on like negotiations and like contract and like around what type of money he should be making. He had no idea, dude. His management wasn't doing any right by him. So of course, he had to fight 35 fights in the UFC. I fought 10 fights there and I was making more money than him. So that's because I knew what I was doing. I knew the business and I knew what it took to sell in this company and how to make the UFC happy, which is ultimately. It's a relationship, it's a partnership with the UFC, you got to self-brand and you got to self-sell yourself. So, I gave him all these inside scoops, and for him to turn his back on me and just start talking shit about me for no reason, it was shitty. It sucks. How about recently look at now Arman's starting to talk shit about him. Like what's going on over there with Arman and Dustin? I mean, I don't think Dustin's this nice guy that he portrays. Everybody tries to act like he's such a nice guy. Why is one of another super sweet guy who I used to train with, Arman, good kid, good little kid, but look at him, what he's starting to say about Dustin and how he's trashing Dustin's name. He knows how Dustin's an egomaniac. The guy just loves to have his ego stroked, and he thinks he's the biggest star in every room he walks in, even though he's a little bitch and quitter. So, I think that's telling that Arman's starting to talk shit about Dustin.
You think Arman can get it done?
I do think he can get it done. I think he's an athlete. Look how flexible he is. Look how he got out of that choke with Charles. That was impressive, man. He dug deep for that. And, he's got a better coach. He's got a great coach. So, I believe in Arman. He's an athlete. He's got big power in his hands. If he believes in those hands, I think he could knock out Makhachev.
And what do you think of Alex Pereira and his run in the UFC? Are you impressed with what you've seen from him?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no way you can't be impressed with the body of work that Alex has done, showing up on short notice, saving cards. I mean, knocking people silly, unconscious into another dimension. So, I've always respected and liked Alex, man. I trained with him, at that gym we were talking about before, probably 7-8 years ago,
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. He came in and he came in with Glover Teixeira, and I was good friends with Glover. We would always go fishing and barbecue in his backyard. So, he brought in Alex and he wanted me to help him with wrestling because he was this great glory kickboxer, like nasty, like future champ in kickboxing, and no one was going to beat him. So he knew he was already going to get into MMA at that time when he was kickboxing, but he just wanted to get more experience in the striking before he made his run in the MMA. So, I was helping him with wrestling for a little bit, and I respect the guy. He's a great fighter, and he's had a great run. You can't downplay what he's been able to accomplish in this short amount of time.
You think he could take Jones out? A lot of people sort of thinking Jones would just try to wrestle him and submit him quickly, but think Alex could catch him before that happens?
Oh, for sure. He could definitely catch him. I mean, no doubt about it. John's going to shoot for those legs. He's not going to want to get cracked by Alex Pereira. So that left hook and those kicks are lethal. So, I definitely think he could knock out John with a nice little left hook. Colby's thought about moving down to lightweight for many years, and Colby realized that he doesn't want to kill himself. He doesn't want to be a weight bully. Islam, these guys at lightweight, the Khabibs, of the world, they're little lightweight bullies. They have such a weight advantage, 30, 40 pounds on fight night, but it's just not healthy, man. It's not sustainable either. So, you cut all that weight, then you start having organ failure. I want to have a good quality of life, and I think about longevity. I think about my health in the next 10, 20, 30 years from now. So I start cutting weight like that. You're talking about really doing some harmful things to the body. So I don't see myself ever trying to go to 55, even though I know I could make it, and I'd probably be way stronger than the guys on fight night, but I don't know. I'd feel like a bully, and I'm not a bully. Like I got into MMA because I didn't want people bullying me. So I'm not going to go down and be a weight bully. I'm going to compete at my natural weight. But 85 is intriguing. I think it would be kind of cool, to go up there with the narrative like, oh, this guy's a small 70. He's going to go up to 85 and take on an even bigger challenge. So there is a possibility. You know, I'm always looking for the biggest and best fights. So we'll see. I'm not sure. We'll see what's on the table, who's hot at the time, and you know, I'm just always looking for the biggest and best fights. So where it doesn't matter any weight class. Really haven't thought about it. That's a good question. I think I've just been so focused on welterweight for so long that, you know, I never let my eyes get off of the, you know, the couple fights that I'm looking at welterweight. But, you know, I mean, the Sean Strickland fight's always interesting. You know, he's had his things to say about me in the past. I don't think he's anything special. He's got a jab, he's got a front kick, but besides that, you know, you shut those weapons down, and he's very limited. So, you know, he's a cardio fighter. He's just a cardio kickboxer essentially. So, you know, I don't see any threats out of Sean Strickland, and it's an entertaining fight that I might entertain in the future. We'll see.
You forgot about Khamzat. You and Khamzat. He might be UFC champion by the time you get up to that division. Bit of history there. Imagine that fight. That sells a lot of tickets, right?
Yeah, that fight sells. You know, I wanted that fight for a long time. He ran from the fight. He couldn't make weight. He was just unprofessional, and you know, the guy was juicing. He quit. The guy who's freaking retiring to the common cold. I'm not going to be afraid of someone who's retiring to the common cold. So, you know, I don't see anything serious about him. I know I can stop his takedowns, and then it becomes a striking fight. And I don't know if his cardio can hang for 5 rounds. We saw in the Gilbert fight how Gilbert really exposed his cardio. He doesn't have good cardio. If you can stuff those takedowns that first, second round and get him to deep waters, he's not that good of a fighter. So if he's able to get you down in that first takedown, that first minute or two, yeah, then he's dangerous, because then he can implement his will on you. But if you can stuff those first couple takedowns, he becomes human, and he becomes a very beatable guy.
What is the latest with Ian Garry? Because I know he didn't meet your requirements. You gave him some requirements. Is that it? Or because I know a lot of people are going, well, you know, it's still a great fight. We'd love to see it.
The thing is, Dennis, is I gave Ian the most simple instructions. Just turn on your comments, man. Just have your wife send me a video. You know, it's not that hard. And if you believe you're going to beat me, you know, then agree that if I beat you, that you got to let her star in my next BC game, America's Pick of the Week video. So, you know, it's unfortunate he couldn't follow simple instructions, but it makes sense. I mean, he's still, you know, he's a vegan from the nutritionist that's his wife's ex-husband. So that's a whole weird tanglement in itself. I mean, that show should be on Hub. That show shouldn't be on YouTube or Colby's Twitch channel. You know, why would I want this guy to be on my highlight reel? He's a nobody, Dennis. He's not a star. I said, hey, listen, I have the ability to get you this fight, Ian. You want this fight? Just follow these 3 simple instructions, 3 simple ideas. Just turn on your comments. It's not a big deal. He couldn't follow a basic simple instruction, so he doesn't get the fight. He doesn't have the power, Dennis, to be like, hey, I want the fight, go to the UFC, make the fight. No, he doesn't have it. I have that power, and I could have done it, but he's not a star. He doesn't do anything for the Colby Chaos business. He's literally an absolute nobody. How did his pay-per-view numbers do his last thing? I don't even think they got 50,000 buys. So the guy's a nobody. I mean, he's a vegan. That's weird in itself. I mean, just what kind of advice are you getting from the ex-husband that used to dog out your wife? That's just weird. So, you know, the fight, you know, has passed. It's come and go. There's just no use for me in the fight. The guy's not a star. He's a nobody. I want big fights. I want stars.